Well, hello, friends. This is Bob Ferguson, and I'm here with my friend Tom O'Donnell, who has done something very courageous, and that is put his hat in the ring to run for Iowa House District 87. Now, there's a number of reasons why I'm supporting Tom and offering him an opportunity for me to ask him some questions so that you can find out what his issues are and whether they resonate with your beliefs and what you think our priorities should be. First of all, Tom is a retired science writer. I like that about him. He's a board member of the Bentonsport Improvement Association, and I believe you got a $1.6 million project to redo a bridge over the Des Moines River.
That's just partial. It's about a $2 million project. We need to raise 400,000 additional, but we got $1.6 million from the Iowa DOT.
There we go. And you're board secretary of the Rural Restoration Project, which is a nonprofit, a new nonprofit that works to develop economic and social opportunities in 5 Southeast Iowa counties. You're also the secretary of Science Iowa, a nonprofit that promotes science in the public interest, publicly supported research, and evidence-based policy. Don't you think that policy really ought to be evidence-based?
It seems like a no-brainer.
That seems like an obvious thing to me. So you're going to be dealing with a lot of issues when you're in the House. But to me, these are 4 key issues that we really need to address. Number one, we need to fund our public schools at levels that allow students to thrive. Reverse or reduce the private school voucher giveaway. Support area education agencies. And I want you to focus on this. What has happened with the AEAs that provide critical services, particularly to rural schools, students and teachers? And then this is my favorite Tom O'Donnell position. Protect our freedom to read what we want, marry whom we want, and control our reproductive health. So Tom, thanks so much for being here with me today.
It's a pleasure, Bob. Glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
First question is, what is it about your background and the way you view policy that makes you a great choice to represent us in District 87?
Well, Bob, I can sum it up in one phrase. I want to do the most good for the most people at the least cost. That's as simple as it gets. I want programs that do those things. We've seen a history in the legislature since Republicans took full control of basically moving income upward and taking rights and economic opportunity away from people at the lower rungs of society. They believe this is what people want. This is what's going to result in a better Iowa. But the evidence is obviously to the contrary. And as I walk through towns and the district meeting voters, I can see evidence of economic decline, rural population decline, and just a general frustration, I think, with the way government is serving them. It's not serving them well now. My goal is to bring government to bear on rural Iowa to make it a better place to live, a thriving place to live, where people can access good health care, higher wages, better housing, and just have a better life for adults and children both.
Oh, that's really terrific. So why are you doing this? And we'll go back to some of those points, but we'll get some of the basic questions. Why are you doing this? It's a somewhat thankless job.
Trust me, Bob, I've asked that question of myself many times and asked my wife the same question. It came down to really that I did not believe that the current occupant of the job, Jeff Shipley, should just walk back into it. Every politician should have somebody opposing them. There should always be options for voters. I don't believe in people being allowed to run unopposed. They need to be able to defend their positions. People need to be able to have a choice. That was the first thing that led me into this. And then second, just like I said, frustration with the direction of the state, frustration with Jeff Shipley's the way he does the job. There are a number of vital issues that I just mentioned that confront this district: housing, wages, better health care, more nursing home inspections so our elders can live in dignity without fear of abuse or even death. Jeff Shipley could have made any one of those issues his signature issue. But what he has chosen to make his signature issue is attacking a tiny minority of the population, transgender Iowans, taking their rights away, and basically making their lives miserable. And I don't believe he's doing it for legitimate reasons. I think he's doing it for political gain. And attacking transgender people does nothing for the people of this district. It does not make their lives better. It does not make their lives easier. It doesn't get them higher wages. It doesn't improve their quality of life. It just is making a target for people to hate.
Well, yes, I couldn't agree more. And on to the next question. So let's put a fine point on that. I mean, you've already drawn a really key distinction, but what are some of the other distinctions? Why are you so different from Jeff Shipley? And how do you approach things in a different way, in an evidence-based way, if you will?
Well, I think I'm different because I'm not chasing mythological or near mythological issues. Transgender people do not pose a threat to Iowans or their quality of life. They just want to live their own lives. They're not a threat to women's sports, for instance. Jeff has chosen to attack. He's a anti-vaccination advocate. Again, that's not making life better for people in this district. It's actively harming them in some regards. I want to do things that will make life better for people in this district. I don't see him pursuing those things, or at least making them as number one priorities. I will go to the Capitol every day during the session with the goal of bringing more opportunity to this district and ensuring that the health care is here for people, that they can live safely in their nursing homes. And primarily, my main issue is that our rural schools do not disappear. And there's a real risk of them just kind of vanishing, fading into insignificance without active support from the legislature. And that is not what they've been getting. They've been getting, for lack of a better word, sabotage from the current legislature. If we want to go into the details, the AEAs, the voucher plan, and the way they drastically underfunded the schools across the state, with a special impact on rural schools who don't have high property values and a big property tax base to tap into to fund their schools. So I can go more into that if you want now, or we can talk more about it later.
Well, maybe we can return to that. But you made a point here when you were here in Fairfield that I thought was really important, particularly in rural areas. The schools take on an outsized role in the community. The schools are the beating heart and center of the community. When schools closed, communities tend to shrivel. And talk a little bit about that. Why is that so important?
It's like you said, people really identify with their schools. And that's especially important in rural areas. The schools often are the source of entertainment and community. People go to the basketball games, they go to the football games, the school plays, the music concerts, things like that. They're really community centers. There's no other institution, perhaps, in these rural towns that plays that role. Churches maybe, perhaps, but churches are not necessarily a unifying influence the way schools are. So it is really important that we keep these schools. It's bad enough that consolidation has pulled, basically closed schools in many towns. But as I knock doors here in Van Buren County, what I hear from some people is they don't believe that there will be a school in 8, 10 years. They believe that the Van Buren district kids will be going, those kids will be going to Central Lee or Cardinal or Fairfield, places like that. They don't believe that the school district can survive financially, and declining enrollment is a threat to that too. So yeah, they are the places where people gather. It's the identifying influence. You're a warrior if you live in Van Buren County. You're a Trojan if you live in Fairfield, and you're a Panther if you live in Mount Pleasant.
Yeah.
And even across the state, there's nothing like it, because you're either a Cyclone, a Hawkeye, or a Panther if you're if you live in Iowa at the college level. But at the local level, it's definitely the schools. They are the things that bring people together, and without them, it's a tremendous loss. Towns fade away without schools.
So you mentioned declining enrollments. I mean, that has to do with the macro influences of what's happening economically. So tell us a little bit about your ideas about how you would help revive rural areas. One thing you pointed out in Fairfield, which I thought was really cogent, the Republicans feel very good about having $5.5 billion held back in a fund for, well, who knows what exactly. So the point you made, I'd like to remake that point.
Mhm.
How does having $5.5 billion held back make sense when we are underfunding our schools, our
Mhm.
water is filthy, other elements of decline are there, particularly in rural areas.
Right.
The urban areas seem to be doing pretty well, but Iowa
Mhm.
is a rural state.
Mhm.
So talk about that.
Well, Bob, as I said in Fairfield, and I'm quoting a letter to the editor I wrote earlier this year, appeared in the Des Moines Register. These guys are patting themselves on the back. They think they've really had an accomplishment by having $5.5 billion in the bank. And that's awfully nice. And they're going to try to use it to give tax cuts that are basically going to benefit people at the top end of the income brackets. Flat taxes, which is what they're headed for, is tremendously regressive. But you have to look at the other side of the ledger. What could that money have done for this state to improve the quality of life? Even half of it, or 2/3 of it. Let's keep some money back. Sure, you have to. But we don't have clean water. We have $5.5 billion, but we don't have adequate nursing home inspections. We have $5.5 billion, but the parks are in bad shape, and we rely on friends groups to try to maintain them or upgrade them. And not every park has a friends group, but they're lucky enough to have one. We have $5.5 billion, but our schools are, declining. We used to be number one in the country for education. It was on the quarter that we issued, first in education. We're middle of the pack now at best. And how can you be proud of having so much money lying in the bank when you have so many needs that could be addressed? And the money's already gone. People are not, the taxes have been taken from them. Or how can you just sit on that money and be proud of that when we could make life so much better for people in Iowa? I mean, it's endemic to the Republican Party, the notion that cutting government is the be all and end all. Cutting taxes and cutting government. They really want to shrink government, as I think Grover Norquist said, to the point where they can drown it in a bathtub. It doesn't make sense. We don't want an overbearing government for sure, but we want a government that makes life better. The states that have the higher quality of life are the ones that are doing the best. Minnesota invests in itself and it's growing. Illinois invests in itself, it's growing. We are becoming Arkansas or Mississippi. If I wanted to live in a low tax and a low wage state, which is what we're becoming, I would have moved to Arkansas. I don't really want to live in Arkansas. It's beautiful. I've been there, but I want to live here and I want to have a high quality of life. And I'm willing to pay for it. Some people who have the capacity to pay for it should pay for it because we all benefit with those amenities and the quality of education and the quality of healthcare and economic development, as you said. We all benefit from those things, but we have to invest. We can't just assume it's going to happen if we cut taxes that it's all going to happen. It doesn't work that way. It's never happened that way.
Let's summarize the differences you see between the way Jeff Shipley does the job and the way you will do the job
Mhm.
when we get you elected.
Well, I think the key one, Bob, is I come from a big family, and so it's in my nature to seek attention, but not the way Jeff Shipley seeks attention, because I really think a lot of what he does is designed to get attention. Um, I think he likes to say outrageous things, and that seems to be the MO frequently for people on the extreme right. The more shocking the thing they can say, the more attention they get, and the more they're kind of a hero to the extreme right. Um, he's not had a lot of success passing bills, um, and it's basically because he pursues these culture wars and things that really don't affect people's lives in a positive way. I am going to the Capitol to work with people, to work with the legislators across the board to bring opportunity to our area, to improve the quality of life, to improve education. That's my key issue, to ensure that the schools in Van Buren County are as good as the schools in Iowa City or West Des Moines, with just as much opportunity offered there to ensure a kid here can get an education that will carry them to college or trade school or wherever they choose to go. And I don't see Jeff Shipley focused on that. He is antagonistic at best toward education and rural education. He seems to have a chip on his shoulder when it comes to the teachers unions or teachers themselves, and has accused them of, indoctrinating students and things like that. It's outrageous, and it's a insult to the people who go into that profession, that great personal sacrifice. I just don't think Jeff has the best interest of this district at heart. He's basically trying to go on a crusade against something that really has no or very little impact on what happens in this district. He needs to basically smarten up and recognize what people need, not what is going to stir the political fires.
So, Tom, very eloquent. How can people find out more about your campaign, and how can they help you get elected?
The easiest way, Bob, is to go to o'donnellforiowahouse.com. That's our website. You'll find more information about me, about my interests, if there are events coming up where I will be. You'll also find a big donate button in several places. It's sad that money is basically the fuel or the oil that runs campaigns, but it's a fact. We have many plans for advertising and getting on radio and things like that. And then there's also a contact us spot on that website. If you want a sign, a yard sign, if you want to volunteer, we're getting out, hitting the streets. We were in Mount Pleasant last weekend with a half dozen people, and you were out there as well, Bob, I know. We would love to have more canvassers. We have a lot of territory to cover still and not much time to do it in. And then maybe the biggest thing people can do is talk to your friends, talk to your neighbors,
Yes.
Tell them about me, tell them that I'm here to represent their interests, not special interests. I'm here to represent the guy coming off the line at Hill Phoenix at the end of the day, 3 o'clock, and then often he's getting on a tractor and going to work the fields after he gets off his shift. I'm here to represent the certified nurse assistant who is leaving the Keosauqua Senior Center, the care center here, and is going home and cooking dinner for her kids and perhaps preparing to work a double shift or something like that. I'm here to represent the folks in Fairfield working at Dexter or just working at Hy-Vee and who want to see their schools survive, their communities thrive, and just have a better life. That's my goal. That's my target. And any help we can get to advance toward that is welcome. And I appreciate the word of mouth, the money, if you can spare it, and the help hitting in the streets to get our message out. So thanks so much.
Tom, thank you very much. It's really an honor to have you running to represent us, and I have every confidence that you'll win this contest.
From your lips to God's ears. Thanks, Bob. I appreciate it.